I want to talk about bullying in the workplace. Not advocating it, quite the reverse. The last 3 years or so have been pretty hard on a lot of people, and there are many individuals who are not as resilient as they were. We live in unsettled and unsettling times. Bullying under normal circumstances is horrendous. I think that if ever there was a time when we had to stamp it out, or at least diminish it greatly, then it's got to be now. It's a destructive and pernicious behaviour. Bullying has been associated with a greater risk of CVD. CVD here meaning cardiovascular disease. Just think about that for a second. Bullying has also been linked to diabetes, suicide, and post-traumatic stress. And what this little graph is showing us is that even people who have high personal resources, in other words, they're pretty robust and resilient, even they, if the bullying becomes intense enough, will develop mental health, psychological issues. So no one is invulnerable to the bully. Workplace bullying is defined as situations where an employee repeatedly and over a prolonged period of time is exposed to harassing behaviour from one or more colleagues, including subordinates and leaders, and where the targeted, what a horrible word, the targeted person is unable to defend themselves against this systematic mistreatment. Workplace bullies, not their victims, score high on the dark triad. Dark triad being psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. They're low, is this a surprise? On agreeableness and honesty and humility. Now, if you've been paying attention to some of the other videos that I've recorded, you may have heard me talk about the need to be honest and the need for humility in leadership positions. That's one of the reasons why. I've also explored agreeableness and disagreeableness in terms of leaders. What about tactical bullying? What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that it's not spontaneous. It's not something that arose out of a situation. It is premeditated. It is malice aforethought. Well, maybe it's driven by jealousy. There are two types of envy. One is where we want to level ourselves up. We want to get that type of car. We want that type of job. And that can be very healthy. It motivates us. We set goals, we achieve. But there's a different type of envy. And that type of envy is where we level others down. We bring them down. We're envious of them. And instead of competing fairly, we sabotage them. One reason that that can happen is because someone has fragile self-esteem. Low self-esteem, yes, that can cause an individual to bully, but they are often not energized enough to do much about it. But fragile self-esteem, which means it can be relatively high but is precarious, yes, they can. Because when they experience threats to their reputation, they may be motivated to act in aggressive ways. In other words, somebody's a threat. They're threatening the fragility. I must act. I must pounce. I must attack. So what can we do to protect ourselves against bullying behaviours and bullies? Well, one thing we can do is to set up a psychologically safe environment. That's one of the reasons that I've talked about that before. It's very difficult for the bully, or at least bullying behaviours, to exist in such an environment. We also should pay attention to promoting supportive leadership styles, like ethical leadership. How remotely ethical is bullying? Well, not at all. So if we have an ethical leader or an ethical leadership team, they would hopefully be on the lookout for such behaviour and would encourage the reporting of it. Authentic leadership should also be encouraged. The authentic leader tends to be very transparent in their dealings. They tend also to be someone who's high in integrity, and because they want to generate relationships and be open, they're likely to encourage any disclosure about bullying behaviour and can therefore act. The transformational leader is keen to develop everyone, to help them be as good as they can be. And in a learning environment like that, open conversations are encouraged. And so hopefully any odd behaviours from some individuals who would be bullies is nipped in the bud. So if we go back to this slide here, the psychopath may come across as your best friend, but they are just as likely to throw you under a bus because they don't care, because they're low in empathy. And if you're in the way, or maybe they just want to have some fun, then they can and often will bully. The narcissist also, particularly if they feel threatened, will bully. Machiavellianism, however, is, according to this research, the strongest predictor of bullying. Again, someone can be Machiavellian and have an overlap between psychopathy and narcissism. It's why I say in teams, in leadership, honesty and transparency is crucial. If this affects you, please don't suffer in silence. Reach out. Here are some websites that may be of use to you. And please feel free to share this video.